Imagine the first human to ever stand on a shoreline and look out at something that had no other side. Not a river, where you can see the opposite bank and understand intuitively that the water has an edge somewhere within sight. Not a lake, where the far shore might be hazy but is still there, implying a boundary, still telling your brain that you could theoretically walk around it in a day or two. The ocean offers no such comfort. It simply continues. The water goes out to the horizon, and then, as far as anyone standing on a beach could possibly know, it keeps going forever. There is no far shore. There is no implied boundary. There is just water, moving and roaring, and the human mind, for the vast majority of our evolutionary history, had absolutely no framework for processing this.
This was a genuinely novel kind of fear, and a genuinely novel kind of wonder.
Figuring out how ancient humans actually responded to it tells you something remarkable about how our species processes the genuinely incomprehensible. Let us start with the most basic question. When did this encounter actually happen? And who was doing the encountering?
The first hominins to encounter the ocean were almost certainly not modern humans.
Homo erectus, spreading out of Africa beginning roughly 2 million years ago, would have encountered coastlines across multiple continents.
Over the course of hundreds of thousands of years of gradual range expansion.
Shoresties. Archaeological evidence from coastal sites in places like the Arabian Peninsula and parts of East Asia suggests that early shellfish, stranded marine animals, tide pool foraging, at dates extending back well over 1 million years in some locations.
The ocean was not a single discovery made once by one population at one moment in time. It was encountered independently by multiple hominin populations spreading across multiple continents over an enormous span of time.
Standing at the precipice, the sheer drop emphasizes the dramatic forces that shaped this coastline over millennia.
This matters because it means there was never one single first time, in the way a tidy origin story might suggest.
There were, instead, countless first encounters scattered across deep time and across geography.
Each one a separate instance of some hominin population walking inland one day and finding the land simply running out.
Replaced by an endless, moving, roaring expanse that none of their accumulated knowledge about rivers, lakes, or any other body of water had prepared them for.
So, what would that moment have actually felt like? We can reconstruct at least part of the answer by thinking carefully about what hominin sensory and cognitive systems were actually built to expect, and what the ocean specifically violates about those expectations.
The human visual and spatial cognition system evolved primarily in terrestrial, and before that, arboreal environments.
It is built to process landscapes with features, trees, hills, rock formations.
The kind of textured, bounded visual information that lets an animal estimate distance, identify landmarks, and build a mental map.
The open ocean offers almost none of this.
A flat, featureless, repeating surface extending to a horizon that itself curves away due to the genuine curvature of the Earth.
A phenomenon that becomes visible at sea in ways it generally does not on land. Where the horizon is typically interrupted by terrain long before the curvature of the planet itself becomes a factor.
This visual homogeneity would have created a specific kind of cognitive disorientation.
The brain relies heavily on contrast and variation to anchor its sense of scale, distance, and spatial orientation.
Remove the variation, and the brain's normal estimation systems begin to fail in measurable ways.
People asked to estimate distances across featureless terrain, deserts, open water, snow-covered plains, consistently produce wildly inaccurate estimates.
Usually underestimating distance dramatically, because there are no intermediate reference points to calibrate against.
An ancient human standing on a beach, looking out at open ocean for the first time, would have been looking at something their visual cognition system had no good tools for processing. The water would have looked simultaneously impossibly close and impossibly, incomprehensibly vast.
Then, there is the sound.
Ocean waves produce a specific acoustic signature.
A continuous, layered roar with no clear beginning, no clear end, and no discrete events to latch onto. The way the human auditory system is built to process most environmental sound. Human hearing, like human vision, evolved to detect and categorize discrete events. A snapping twig, a distant call, the rustle of grass that might indicate a predator or prey moving through it. The relentless, undifferentiated roar of breaking waves offers none of this discrete structure. It is sound without events, noise without information in the specifics that the ancestral auditory system was built to. This combination, visual homogeneity without spatial anchors, auditory continuity without discrete events,
For early humans encountering the ocean for the first time.
not fear in the simple sense of recognizing a specific threat, but something closer to what modern psychology sometimes calls the sublime, or in its more clinical framing, a kind of perceptual overload triggered by an environment that exceeds the available cognitive categories for processing it. There is actually a documented modern phenomenon that offers a useful, if imperfect, analogy here.
The response that some people from genuinely landlocked regions, with no prior exposure to images or descriptions of large bodies.
Here he stands, contemplating the endless blue, finding a moment of profound peace and awe.
Reporting reactions ranging from profound awe to genuine, visceral fear.
Sometimes including physical symptoms like dizziness or nausea that researchers have associated with the same kind of spatial disorientation we just discussed.
The brain's visual and balance systems struggling to process a horizon and a scale of movement that has no precedent in their prior visual experience.
These modern cases are not a perfect proxy for the ancient experience, because modern humans encountering the ocean for the first time as adults, ancient humans encountering the actual physical ocean for the first time, had none of this conceptual scaffolding.
They were encountering something with literally zero prior framework, conceptual or perceptual, to draw upon.
Now let us talk about what ancient humans actually did with this experience, because the archaeological and cultural evidence suggests something genuinely fascinating.